So good to have you join us today. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Ijun in Seoul. We have plenty on our plate today, so let's get started with a look at the day's highlights. Korea's unemployment rate rises to an 11-year monthly high last month amid slumping exports and the government-led corporate restructuring drive. We take a look at what went wrong with Samsung's Galaxy Note 7 and what lies ahead for Korea's largest company as it officially ends production of the phablet after reports of spontaneous fires and battery explosions. Latest job numbers are out and they paint a pretty bleak picture. The protracted economic slowdown in Korea's manufacturing sector is weighing heavily on the job market. And numbers are also showing that it's younger Koreans that are suffering the most. Our Shin Se-min starts us off.
Times are proving tough as young Koreans are suffering from one of the worst job markets in years. Statistics Korea says the country only added 267,000 new jobs in September from a year ago, bringing the total number of people in work to 26.5 million. The margin of increase slumped back into the 200,000 range in September after popping up by 387,000 jobs in August. The overall unemployment rate stood at 3.6% in September, with failed attempts at landing jobs pushing numbers up.
Seasonal factors likely played a part in the September figures, with large firms holding a lot of their recruitment sessions in September.
The agency says the ongoing government-led corporate restructuring drive of the ailing shipping and shipbuilding industries took a toll on the jobs market. Jobs in the manufacturing sector, which includes the shipping and shipbuilding industries, fell 76,000 on year in September. The monthly figure was also brought down by the losses in the construction and retail sectors. Local construction firms hired 41,000 new employees in September, down from a gain of 71,000 in August. The number of new jobs in the wholesale and retail sector fell to 88,000 last month from the 141,000 hires in August, mostly temporary workers hired in preparation for the Chuseok holiday. The youth unemployment rate fared especially poorly. It stood at 9.4% last month for young Koreans ages 15 to 29. It's the highest monthly figure tallied since 1999 and a gradual increase from the 9.2% in July. Looking ahead, Korea's finance ministry is less than optimistic, saying that the prolonged strikes at major automakers and walkouts by unionized cargo truck drivers are expected to further dent the job market. Shin Se-min, Business Daily.
Korea's central bank is expected to hold a key interest rate steady at a record low of 1.25% on Thursday when it holds its monthly monetary policy meeting. Financial analysts expect Bank of Korea policymakers to stand pat due to mounting household debt, which continues to surge. They also cite the likelihood of the U.S. Fed Reserve raising rates before the end of this year. A survey of 200 bond traders by the Korea Financial Investment Association showed that 98% of respondents predict the BOK will freeze the rate. Also on Thursday, the Bank of Korea will announce its revised growth outlook for this year and the next. In July, the BOK forecast the Korean economy would grow 2.7% this year and 2.9% next year. The U.S. dollar closed at a 7-month high on speculation that the U.S. Federal Reserve will raise interest rates this year. The dollar index, which measures the greenback against 6 major currencies, rose 0.8% to 97.65 on Tuesday, its highest closing value since mid-March. Recent data has pointed to strength in the U.S. manufacturing and service sectors, and investors are looking to Wednesday's release of minutes from the Fed's September meeting for signs of an interest rate hike. On the other hand, as investors fret about a hard exit by Britain from the European Union, the sterling continued its downward streak and has lost more than 4% of its value against the dollar over the past week. And keeping our eyes on Korea's household debt, fresh figures show the country's debt pile did grow at a slower pace last month, nonetheless bloating by a substantial sum. Data from the Bank of Korea shows that household debt expanded by 6 trillion won, or $5.3 billion in September. It was driven by mortgages, which made up nearly 87% of the new borrowing, attributed to a high demand for collective loans. Now that brings the total outstanding household borrowing from local banks to $613 billion. Samsung Electronics efforts to reboot its Galaxy Note 7 smartphone with a worldwide recall and replacements now appear to have been all in vain. With reports coming in that the replacements were also considered a fire risk, the world's largest smartphone maker decided to pull the plug on production. And for more on what this means for Samsung and what the fallout will be, our Kim Min-ji joins us in the studio today. Hi, Min-ji.
Hi, Ji-yoon.
All right, so I hear the announcement was unprecedented.
Yes, Ji-yoon, the world's #1 smartphone maker officially announced that it will permanently end the production of its Galaxy Note 7. And this, in effect, announces that it will discontinue the troubled phablet. Now, the termination of sales and production is expected to deal a significant blow to the image of the company. The tech giant has for many years pursued top-tier quality management. You might have heard of the story from back in 1995 when Samsung chairman Lee Kun-hee set fire to mobile phones, saying that faulty products were cancer and crime. So this fiasco is surely considered a huge blow to those efforts, which helped the company grow into one of the world's biggest corporations.
And this whole thing unraveled in a very short period of time.
That's right. It happened within a matter of 2 months since it made its debut in the market in mid-August. Now, it would have been a painstaking decision for the company, but also inevitable based on their principle of putting consumer safety first.
It was an unprecedented case for the world's #1 smartphone maker. But its global recall and replacement program ended bearing no fruit. With reports rolling in of newly replaced Note 7s catching fire, Samsung Electronics called an official end to production and sales of its flagship phablet.
We made the decision based on our top priority for consumer safety. We will take all-out efforts to minimize the inconvenience for consumers when getting refunds or exchanges for a new model. We apologize for causing concern.
The decision comes after reports of at least 9 replacement handsets catching fire. The recent incidents occurred mainly in the US, while 1 case was reported each in Korea, China, and Taiwan. Samsung said it has been looking into the recently reported cases with the relevant regulatory bodies in those markets. The exact cause of the reported fires involving the new Note 7s is still unknown, but related authorities say results could be out as early as this week. The crisis comes just over a month after Samsung announced a global recall of 2.5 million Note 7s and put an end to the lifespan of the phablet in less than 2 months.
So that was the fate of Note 7. Some 50 days after the release, right? And I think it was supposed to compete with Apple's iPhone 7, which is scheduled for a release here in Korea next week. So it looks like this will definitely hurt Samsung's overall market share.
You're right. Before the recall, analysts had expected sales of the Note 7 to be somewhere around 15 million to 19 million. But now those estimates have been revised down to below 10 million. Now this will likely give its rivals, especially Apple, a leg up in the market. Last year, Samsung's market share was 21%, and it edged up to 22.4% during the second quarter of this year, driven by strong sales of the flagship Galaxy S7. Now, Apple, on the other hand, fell from 15% to 11.8%. But now, global credit ratings agency S&P expects Apple's global market share to edge up 1 percentage point, thanks to additional sales of up to 15 million units of its new iPhone 7. Now, that's up about 7% from its initial sales estimate.
So I guess the large influx of Galaxy Note 7 users or potential buyers will could switch over to Apple as they are competing in the high-end market. So what about users with the phone right now?
Well, here in Korea, Samsung says starting Thursday, owners of the Note 7 can get a full refund or exchange their phones for a completely new model at the store where they bought the phone initially. Now, Note 7 owners who opt for an exchange can choose either another Samsung model or can choose another phone brand altogether, and they will be given cash for any differences in the price. Those wishing to stay with Samsung will be given a coupon worth roughly $26 that they can use to purchase smartphone accessories, and the exchange program will run through the end of the year.
All right, so this whole process is expected to cost Samsung billions of dollars. Do we have any estimates on that?
Well, analysts say the global recall itself is expected to cost the tech giant up to $2 billion.
Wow.
But given the impact it may have on sales and other Samsung products, it's expected to take a toll on fourth quarter earnings for sure, and possibly into next year.
The impact of the recall will be felt more in the fourth quarter. It'll inevitably pull down operating profits and sales of Samsung's mobile division, and Samsung will most likely have to turn to its budget lineup of smartphones to make up for the loss. But since the prices of the models are cheaper, they won't be that much help.
So analysts at Nomura expect the termination of the Note 7 could result in a loss in sales worth some $9.5 billion and over $5 billion in profit. But given the size of Samsung, the general consensus is that the company is profitable enough to weather the ditching of one model.
And this news has, of course, been pummeling Samsung shares on the local market. So how did the stocks fare today?
Today, shares did perform better, closing down just 0.65% from the previous trading session. You will remember, though, they did nosedive by over 8% on Tuesday, wiping off roughly $19 billion of the company's market cap. But in fact, analysts say Samsung's brand image is at risk as consumers may lose confidence in the company.
Even small problem in other Samsung Galaxy phones, people kind of link that to the Note 7. So this time I think it will affect the consumer's perception of the Samsung brand overall as well. This will probably continue to the year end, but maybe as a new Note device is launched and the new S8 is launched, maybe we'll see some recovery in Samsung sales overall. But they need a replacement device, a flagship that can make people forget about the Note 7.
Well, for now, the decision to ditch the Note 7 means extremely big losses for Samsung. Analysts say it was probably the right decision in the sense that they made the move before consumer organizations took action against the phone. Now, to give you some examples of other global companies that face similar situation, Mitsubishi lost the trust of consumers by hiding problems with its truck tires back in 2000, while Toyota faced up to $5 billion in operating loss for recalling vehicles in the US, but was able to patch up its reputation again. Now, since Samsung is expected to launch its newest flagship series, the Galaxy S8, in February next year, the move is actually seen as a strategy to minimize the impact on the new phone and so that the issue doesn't drag on to next year. And analysts say Samsung's focus will now be to use this as an opportunity to start fresh and work even harder on the quality and safety of its new models to come.
So I guess we'll have to wait and see if Samsung will be able to recover its long-established trust from consumers again.
That's right.
Thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
Two of the world's biggest tech giants, Samsung Electronics and Apple, have squared off in the U.S. Supreme Court over their long-running design patent dispute. Our Kim Mo-gyun has more.
The 8 justices heard arguments by lawyers for the world's 2 top smartphone manufacturers in Samsung's challenge to the $399 million it paid to Apple last year for infringing its patented designs. In 2012, a jury found that some Samsung smartphones infringed 3 patents on aspects of the iPhone's design, including its face and rounded bezel design and its icon arrangement. Samsung is challenging the amount it paid to Apple, which is the entire profit of the sales of its Galaxy S model. It says the amount should be much smaller since Apple's patents only cover a small part of the iPhone.
And what the statute says is that you're entitled to the profits on the article to which the design was applied. The design was not applied to the innards of a phone. The batteries, the processors, the electronic componentry that makes the smartphone smart.
The Korean tech giant's lawyers compared the situation to forfeiting all profits from the car because the cup holder infringes on a patent. On the other hand, Apple says the infringed patents were closer to the design of an entire car and that Samsung failed to show the patents were relevant to just parts of its devices. Apple's lawyers said that protection of innovative designs is critical to the U.S. economy.
11 times now, Samsung has been found guilty of intentionally and blatantly copying the iPhone. Every court at every level has agreed. We think it's wrong, and that poses chilling risks to the future of design and innovation.
Some of the justices expressed deep skepticism over how they could figure out which part of a product a design applies to when calculating damages for patent infringement. The Supreme Court is expected to issue a final ruling by the end of June. Kim Mo-gyan, Business Daily.
And that wraps it up for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow with more business news that matters to you. Until then, goodbye.